Good morning. It's lovely to see you. Okay, we've had our hopefully one and only bump in the internet, and here we are outside in the not sunshine. But let me show you the day. Here it is. It's a very sort of calm day, which is lovely because it was so wild and wet and cold and everything else. And now it's just, So, good morning, beautiful beings. Lovely to see you, Laura. And I can see you there with your two beautiful children. And I'm sorry I don't know your name, but I'm waving at you. It's great to see you. Welcome, welcome. So, this is the winter garden, and it needs more winter cleaning up. And of course, I haven't been able to do anything because the weekends have been wet. But down here, look, there's things coming up. This is spring looking you in the eye. Spring starts early here now, be that good or bad at how it is. We have some winter roses because I don't prune the roses back because I want to see the hips because they're very verdant and lovely. So good morning to you as you're jumping on with me. I appreciate your presence. So not many flowers, and look, remember I said there was hail. See what it did to the cinerarias. Shredding things is not too strong a word. Those are nice green leaves before, and now they're still green leaves, but they got big holes in them. It was massive, hail, marble-sized bits of hail, so not really surprising. There's a lot of it. And here's the place where everything is growing. I planted little bits. That's a tree thing, well, a big sort of shrubby bushy thing. And this is a pelargonium that I've been given, and I broke lots of bits off, and I'm hoping it'll fill this whole area in. So, winter is really a time for cleaning up, and I so need to clean up in here. So this is just what's happening. But, there's always something to see. And this massive sedum. Good morning, Jan. Good morning, Andrew. Lovely to see you. Look, it's just covered in rain, and I love water drops on anything. So, this is beautiful to me. And the colours are so clear because it's, the colours are saturated, literally. When you have water on things, the colours are very bright. So it is lovely just to show you this. We don't really have a decent winter here anymore because everything sprouts very quickly. But it is beautiful, so I'm enjoying it. And, the warming is actually a cyclic thing. It's happened before, it'll happen again. And the only question we have is how long it's going to be before it cools off. So that's all I'm going to say about that. So today's topic is really this whole business of beating ourselves up. And it was just a little comment that you made about, we screw up, and then we go, oh gee, I screwed up, and we can get stuck in beating ourselves up about it for however long, or not. And so I wanted to talk about mistakes, because, we go to school, most of us go to school one way or another, and if we make mistakes, we are not often encouraged to say, oh, well, you made a mistake, have another go, try something different, which is the appropriate response to making a mistake, right? Because you only learn by experience. Now, nobody tells a child off for falling over 500 times when it's learning to walk. So what happened when we went to school and suddenly got told off for not knowing how to do the thing that the teacher had taught us and we were supposed to know? But maybe we have a different way of learning, or something about the way they said it didn't make sense to us, or whatever, It's like we start getting... And this is going to happen. This is not a rage against society, by the way. It's just what's going to happen. Except in very rare circumstances where it doesn't. We get pushed into systems and processes which are fundamentally designed to be helpful, but they're sometimes, or maybe more than sometimes, not. Good morning, Julian and Lynn. It is lovely to see you with us. Yay! So, and it's drizzling out here, so I may decide to go in, but I don't really think it's going to do anything more than that. We'll see. There are more advanced schools sometimes now where children are encouraged to learn by experience. They are encouraged to make mistakes and to go, okay, how could I have done that better next time? What actually happened? What do I like? What was good? What can I learn? What observations can I make? All of that. And can I do it better next time? And that's the appropriate process. But because a lot of us have experienced this pass-fail thing, you do a module in school or class or whatever it is, and then there's a test and you pass or fail, and there can be all kinds of expectations upon you to pass, for whatever reason. And please, again, this is not about beating up on parents, because remember, they grew up with a hell of a lot more pressure, because there was even less understood about children and appropriate learning methods and all of that when they were small. It can all get wired up with, I made a mistake, that means I'm bad. Like, it also gets tied up with, making a mistake gets hooked up with making a mistake in your behaviour, as in making a poor choice, which children are going to do when they're growing up, because they have these brains that are exploring different possibilities and trying things out, and they don't know until they try. And oh my God, I have so much respect for parents. I'm not a parent, by the way, who over and over and over again model the appropriate behaviour to their children and understand, while they're just thinking, can I give them away today? That this is the process, and who they are being is who their child is going to become. And how they relate to their child is how their relationship will be later. But it's tough, because the child's got to work all these things out, and it's hard work, okay? So that process of education and learning from mistakes, learning by experience, should by and large be a positive thing. But we are somehow, many of us, programmed into believing that mistakes are bad. And this was me, by the way, this one. If you make a mistake and it was really bad, then you should think about it often and feel awful about it often, so that you don't do it again. And that really, I used to recognise this for many years. I recognised that I was stuck in this painful cycle of going, oh my God, that was so horrible. And I didn't understand how that worked. I do now. It was just this big, huge neural net that had formed in my brain because I had an experience that was basically traumatic. And it wasn't really traumatic because of what happened. It was traumatic because of how I responded to it, which, for long story reasons, is just how I responded to it. It was traumatic to me. And so it used to come back to me. Something would remind me of that, and then it was like, and we just get stuck in that because we don't realise that we can change it. Yeah, and we get shamed, and we get compared, and we get judged, all of that stuff. So all of those painful memories and emotions and everything else, remember, in your brain, you have a strong emotional experience, your brain is going to perk up, pay attention, take a snapshot of the external stimuli in your environment that have come together for you to have that chemical experience in your body, and make a memory and say, oh gee, we need to try to avoid this, and it's going to associate it in your brain. It's going to make neural connections with other neural nets that are similar. And when something in your environment reminds you of any small part of that massive neural net, the whole thing tends to go off. Mike, good morning! And that is what happens, and that's, we get so buried in self-reproach and beating ourselves up because of that. Because we make a mistake, we go, oh gee, that was a dumb thing to do, or whatever, whatever words happen in your head, and unbeknownst to us, all of the other stuff that is related to dumb things to do, like you're stupid, you should have known better, you're not as good as your sister, your brother's better than you, whatever it is, all of that unconsciously or subconsciously goes off as well. So no wonder we put all this effort into thinking, oh God, how can I avoid doing that again? Because it's so painful and we don't understand why, but that's why. By association, the brain fires the whole lot up when just one little part of that very strong emotion gets reminded or remembered or reactivated in your neural nets and in your chemistry. It's like a firestorm. So, that's the whole thing with making mistakes. That's why it becomes such an issue. Now, you notice that when that happens and your brain goes into that firestorm, where is your attention? What are you thinking about? something that happened in the past. You are now emotionally and neurologically and biologically and genetically and energetically and in every way absolutely anchored into, focused upon and buried in the past. In that moment, right? When you're thinking about any aspect of all of that mistake-associated pain or whatever it is, you're there. As far as your body's concerned, it's in the past. It's getting the same chemical and genetic and everything else signals as it did the first time whatever it was happened. Nothing's changed in that regard. But you have a much more enriched neural net about it because you have all of these other judgments and assessments and things that you've decided and experiences you've had that relate together, so the neural net in your brain's got a lot bigger about it. So, you are stuck in the past when you are focusing on these things. And this is what I finally realised. And in fact, when I was I wrote this, the words for this last night, and I looked at this morning and I thought, oh my God, I've missed a bit out. And it is this thing that when we get anchored into, oh, I screwed up, I made a mistake, you're thinking about the past. You are not thinking about what you did do well, because even in a complete screw up, there's something, if you look back at it, there's some reason you made the choice you made. There is something that you did well, even if it was just that you did what was a really bad idea with absolute commitment because you were certain about it at the time. There's always something that you can appreciate about how you did whatever it was that you did. That's the first thing. And secondly, while you're busy being mired in, oh my God, that was awful, I hate myself, I'll never try again, I'm such a failure, blah, 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 you are not thinking about what you will do better in the future. So you're just stuck there. So, and then you start to realize, oh, do you mean that beating myself up and feeling all this reproach and feeling like a failure and all of that is actually just another freaking emotional addiction? Yes. Yes, it is. We can actually become biochemically, physically trying to make you feel better. Right. No, I'm not. I'm trying to help you set yourself free. Because I know you can do it right. I know you're laughing, Mike. It's just, this is supposed to help me feel better. Well, yes, it is. It's empowering to understand how it works. So we can get addicted, literally, to the very thoughts and feelings that we don't like, that we wish we really didn't feel. Because remember, when you have the thought, then you have the feelings, your cells get a biochemical signal. Your DNA gets signaled. Something gets pushed out of your cell that goes and does things elsewhere in your body, and your body gets really used to the fact that when you have that thought and you have that feeling and that chain reaction happens, and very quickly, by the way, within moments, this is the environment inside the body, outside of the cell. This is what it becomes accustomed to. And because cells have receptors, and receptors actually change their shape to fit certain chemicals in your body, that they can be flexible, but if there is an abundance of a certain kind of chemistry, they're going to kind of get stuck on it. And then if that chemistry suddenly goes away, it's no different from a meth addict who decides, for whatever reason, to stop taking meth. Suddenly the cells are saying, where is the chemistry that I have been adapted to? And you literally get withdrawal symptoms. You do. Now, for an emotional addiction, they really can be very physical. They totally can. But what you notice is all the thoughts that flick up into your brain or roar up into your brain. Oh, start tomorrow. Do it tomorrow. Just feel miserable today. Just judge someone today. Judge that person that you have loved to hate for the last 5 years again today. Start thinking about being compassionate towards them because it's kinder to you to do so tomorrow. Just judge a little. It feels so good, and it does. Or feel guilty, feel bad, feel worthless. It's who you are. It's how your world is. Don't change it. I know how to be worthless and guilty. I don't know how to be happy and abundant in myself and feeling good about it. I don't know how to do that. Don't ask me to do that. I don't want to go anywhere new. So the body fights us Because from the body's perspective, when things stay the same, it feels safe. It knows it can survive. Now, in the short term, in the long term, it might be dying because the stress hormones push the genetic buttons for disease, and that's not a good look. I mean, that's just a fact. I'm not scaremongering. It's just a fact. So, it's like we can be addicted to thoughts and emotions and feelings, and whatever, thoughts, feelings, emotions. We can be addicted to them even though they're killing us. Literally, moment by moment, step by step. It doesn't often happen quickly. Yeah, it is a bit of a Shazam, Laura. It's like, oh my God, really? Yes, we really can be addicted to these very deleterious, big word for the day, experiences that we keep creating for ourselves. And we do actually. I'm going to tell you a story without identifying someone. It doesn't matter. But I had a conversation with somebody who had a terrible, terrible childhood. And long story short, she felt it was all her fault, which, of course, remember, when the child is having painful and emotionally painful, physically painful, whatever experiences, there is no analytical filter in the mind up to the age of 7, give or take. And so the child has no way to say, this is bullshit, I don't deserve this, my parents are crazy people, whatever it is. Child has no way to do that. So if they're told you're stupid, you're useless, I hate you, I wish you'd never been born, whatever it was, it just goes straight back in. It just goes straight in. There is there's nothing at all that will stop that information from going straight into the implicit memories of the child. And so the child grows up and they feel utterly worthless and they don't know why. And they think everything that's bad to them, everything that's happened to them that's bad is their fault. And even though they intellectually may disagree with that, remember this is 5%, and the other 95% of who you are is in your body and it's unconscious. So I'm just going to see if I can do something with that. No, I'm sorry, I can't. So it goes in, and this person clearly had a very traumatic childhood. And so I started to give them some suggestions about ways that they could change that. And one of the things I did was I just sent them to Dr. Joe Dispenza's testimonial reel because I love that and I find it so uplifting. And so they actually went and did that. Credit to them. I'm certainly not, beating up on this dear person because they've had a very hard time. And it just so happens that the very first testimonial in the list at the time, and this is synchronicity for you, listen carefully, was the story of a lovely mother whose child had been bitten by a tick, gotten very, very sick, very quickly. And the story of how that mother, and a lot of other people, by the way, in the Joe Dispenza's community, worked together to help this little girl heal. It was lovely. It's a beautiful story. This wonderful mother who, and the family, but she was up on the stage with her daughter there. You can go and find it. It's close to the top. Beautiful story, right? And this dear lady who, ow, right? She comes back to me and she says, I watched this testimonial and I'm just now certain that everything that happened to me was my fault and I'm bad and I'm no good and you're trying to help me, but I'm just not, no, I'm beyond help. And I wrote back to her and I said, look, amongst other things, I said, out of all the things that your brain could have perceived in that story, you perceived the things in that story that affirm to you that your parents hate you, that you are unworthy, that you were a bad child and all of that stuff. And it's just because that was the filters in her brain. So, even beyond being addicted, I mean, she literally can't receive other information because of how sensory information is processed. If you're in that emotional state, it's very, very, in fact, it's impossible to receive anything else. It's impossible to think, somebody can say, I love you, and it's like, no, you don't, whatever. But she, in all of the possible ways that she could have perceived that story, she perceived it in a way that would allow her to experience her worthlessness and her pain and her rejection and everything else again. She is addicted to feeling worthless. And it's my heart goes out to her. But until she decides to break out of that addiction, there's nothing I can do. And so I wrote back to her and I explained this. lovingly, you know, I try not to beat people over the head. I never beat people over the head. I said, look, this is the thing. And I gave you some choices. I said, look, now that I understand about you a bit better, here are some resources. It'll take probably as much courage as you've ever had in your life to go and, you know, get some more information, to take a chance on the possibility that you might be able to feel different, have a different experience, whatever it was I said. She hasn't come back to me. She is happy being unhappy. And that is our right to make that choice. She's not ready to leave her addiction yet. I wish she was. I said, I will walk the path with you as I can, but you got to do it. And of course, I'm not going to keep writing and keep investing my energy to help somebody say, oh, but I'm so worthless and I can't be helped. And, you know, it's like you either want to create change in your life or you don't. And bless you either way. I'll think no different of you one way or the other. But I won't empower that victimhood. It is her comfort zone. But the thing is, we all have our comfort zones, and that's the point I'm making, me too, is that we know what we know, and we automatically want to stay there. When you become, she hasn't got to the place of saying, oh God, this has to stop. This has to stop. And you know, I've gotten to that place more than a few times. And every time, this has to stop. And I create myself anew. I move through it. I refuse to stay where I've been because I just don't want to. Because I know what it's doing to me. And I love myself too much. And that's okay. That's her journey. If she never makes it out this time, she'll figure it out another time. She's got the whole of eternity being herself. And she's done and been everything. It's okay. I'm all right with it. So that's the thing, you know, we can beat ourselves up and convince ourselves that we're worthless until we're ready to do and be something else. So don't get stuck in your past. Screw up, grieve, cry, scream, whatever it is you have to do, but move past it and put your attention on what you did do well and what you're going to do better next time. Very much love. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.